What's up, Blizzard Nation? Welcome back to Strictly Blizzness, episode 113, with a special guest.
We do have a special guest.
There's no avoiding that introduction till later.
He's right there.
See if we can get 10 minutes before
He's just
we
right
get
there.
ordered.
Yeah. If you don't know who the guy is to my right, well,
It's me.
You are to my far right. You're not my immediate right. So we have our head coach with us today. Corey, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Before we get started, though, I think we have some people to thank.
Yeah, just two of them.
Just two.
Creative Edge and...
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Because you don't know, or?
No.
Oh, okay. And Edge VR Arcade, where we film. Some awesome things coming this season as well. Have your birthday parties at Edge VR Arcade.
They also have a virtual Halloween thing going on.
Yep.
Which, that would scare the bejesus out of me, I think.
We have everything from spooky to terrifying.
Ooh, it's rated spooky to terrifying.
It's like spice level for foods.
Yeah. Fabulous. All right. Well, we have a lot to cover today, but we want to wrap up some stuff from the previous show, I think, first.
Yep.
So did anybody win the football? I'm
Nope.
guessing the theme.
Unless I can't read or count, but for sure, no, it looks like. As vague as that is. We got a bunch of 80s night. It's not 80s night.
It's not 80s.
So,
People you don't know. It would had to have been big hair and something else to be 80s night. So
Yep.
you missed it by a decade. It's actually 90s night. So we're going to have a 90s night.
Yes.
So we've announced two of our theme nights. And nobody won the second
I
ball
actually
either.
know a ton about that game already. I just don't know if you want it out of the bag
No,
yet.
we'll save that for a
Okay.
future episode.
So.
But let's unveil the third ball then.
All right.
Okay. What are we looking at?
We're looking at the third ball, if you can't guess
We
this
can't-
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got problems, Blizzard Nation, if you don't know what this one is. It's literally going to be whoever comments first on this one, because it is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Um,
If you can't get it by looking at it, we have a whole different problem. It coincides with when we're starting the season.
Yep.
So we'll leave it at that. Corey looks like so perplexed.
I mean,
He's
I know,
like,
'cause I'm
I
like-
don't know what you guys are
yeah,
talking
like
about.
throw the image up afterwards. So.
Where is it at so I can guess?
I mean, there's a pot of gold. I mean, this is all stuff you see on screen. There's a rainbow. There's four-leaf clovers.
Don't say it, Corey. Don't
not-
say it.
Yeah, we're the Green Bay Blizzard.
Yeah.
So there you go. First comment, good luck, and I will
Yeah.
check the timestamps and turn commenting on so that's possible.
So that we actually can get comments this
yeah.
time. Okay. Follow up on a couple of questions. Corey is here today because of not just our last episode, people asking questions, but we've had questions like this in the past, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. But I do want to touch upon another comment and follow up again on Bismarck. Bismarck will be doing an announcement, as I said before, later this month, and kind of unveiling everything that they've been working on and where they're going with the team, what's happening with the team, all of that. They are not on our schedule for 2024, but they will talk about that and talk about their future as a football team. So I'm going to let them tell that story, kind of like I said on the last episode. The other thing was we did have a question about CBS Sports and what's the benefit of, well, two things. I think having it be at a neutral site like Vegas and going to Vegas, but then having it on CBS Sports when so many fans are used to watching it on YouTube. And I understand the frustration around the YouTube piece. But to put it bluntly, CBS Sports gets us the most traction because of the network, because of the exposure during the day, and the number of people that watch CBS Sports that are sports-minded individuals. I get that we have to worry about our IFL dedicated individuals and what they're used to seeing, but we're trying to get ourselves into that primetime market, those primetime players. I'm going to talk about the AFL just a little bit here because they're talking about how they're going to be on the NFL network, and they're talking about how they're going to be on all these other great networks. You can be on networks like that if you pay to play. So a lot of those broadcasts, they're 75 to 100 grand to put on. I don't know how the AFL is going to do that when they're picking up teams from the CIF that were struggling on a $400,000 budget, struggling to stay alive, and they're going to have them play a 16-game season and beyond these broadcasts. The more that I look at the model that they're touting and the number of teams and who some of these teams are, buyer beware is all I can say. Is I don't see, if they do get it off the ground, I don't see all of those teams lasting a full season. So we'll talk about the AFL when we get a little further into our conversation with Corey. So I just wanted to talk about those two things. Will it be on CBS Sports again? I believe it will be. Having it in Vegas, having it at what is a neutral site or has been a neutral site. Obviously, if Vegas goes to the championship game, it's no longer neutral. But the biggest reason for having it there is we can have our league meetings. There's a lot of hotels for fans to come to. It's a metropolis that people go to for a destination. So not only would it be our fans coming, but locals could also easily go to the game, not knowing anything about the IFL. You got any more comments around Vegas and CBS Sports?
No, I mean, besides the national exposure that we're looking for within the IFL brand and, trying to, boost up our exposure to, the population, right, in general. So with national sponsorships and everything. So I think that's a huge boost for the IFL for sure. Mm-hmm. As far as Vegas, I mean, of course, everyone would like to play at their home turf like it has been in years past, but going to a neutral site, a destination where it's easy for a lot of our fans to get into. And I believe the commissioner pushed it back another week to allow for travel this upcoming season. So I think it shouldn't be an issue, moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this will be the last. This is the last year of a 3-year contract with Vegas, so we don't know if that's going to renew again in Vegas or if it's going to be opened up. We're not really sure yet. For right now, the Dollar Loan Center did have a 3-year contract, so we're on 2024 will be year 3. So that everybody knows. All right. So you're here for a reason. The reason is dun, 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 dun. So we had a fan ask last time and times before. We've wanted to keep this show be more about behind the scenes, and so what we're going to be asking you is a behind the scenes loaded kind of more football than anything else. We've always talked mostly about operations. You have your own shows and historically have had your own debriefing shows around plays of the game, what's coming up for the next game, things like that. But we want to talk about IFL in general and how we handle bringing in players, recruiting, things like that. So time of year, so we're right now at that time of year where free agency starts, right. Correct? So you want to go over just how the IFL handles free agency, the timing of it, and just how you work through, and you can deal with it like your roster of guys coming back, and then if you're looking for holes, how do you deal with the free agency stuff that comes up?
Yeah, I believe for us, the process started right after Quad Cities game. Okay. When we were knocked out of the playoffs, the second from last game of the year. We were all auditioning. We went into that Tucson game as we want to have a winning record, and we still auditioning because we're only as good as our last output, right? What we put out there, the film that we put out there. So that was an eye opener for us. As a coaching staff, as an organization of. Who's here for football and who's here for other reasons. So we went into the off season. We checked some boxes with guys who we want to return and were holes that we have to fill or whatnot. So that was our starting process. We met, and truthfully, we met the night before the game, and then we met immediately after that game, and the list shrunk. After the Tucson game. So. I jokingly, I said this to some other coaches around the league, and they kind of laughed like, "Oh, y'all were real serious." No, I mean the object is for us to compete for a championship. Absolutely. And if we're not putting the right product on the field to compete for a championship, then we are the problem. And that was the standard that we set years ago. When We came into this in 2019, and that's still our goal as a coaching staff. So, we look at a lot of players. We have relationships with other guys on other teams as far as the restricted free agent period, and we reach out to those guys when we're allowed to. Some guys are interested in coming into Green Bay. Some guys are not, which is fine. We want to make Green Bay a destination. We know we can't compete with weather, right?
Yeah.
We ain't Green Bay, but we are the grinders. We're in the Midwest, and we have our positives of what we stand for and who we are. So it's starting over. I mean, our defense was.
What, Corey? Inquiring minds want to know.
Our defense was a weak spot in on our team last year, and that was our focal point this year, and we still focusing on the guys who we need to bring in order for us to build that part of the team up. We are able to bring back some other guys that we want to come back on the defense, and now we got some gaps to fill.
So when you're recruiting, you have specific people that are out looking at film from college, things that other players send in or their agents send in. How do you get that info from players from a recruitment standpoint? How do you know who to look at?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have a lot of different partners that assist in scouting. We have Sam, who's been a part of the organization for years, who does a lot of the scouting for us during and out in the off season. But then we have a lot of other guys that helps out around the league with different teams or whatnot. And that's what they do. They scout players. They have a database of players that they send out and who's interested in playing in the IFL. So we kind of look at the criteria. We kind of look at their stats, and what I mean by their stats, their measurements. Do they fit the bill of what we're looking for? So at a certain position, so let's call it a defensive lineman. Are they, call it 6'1", 250 and above? Do they got the right 40 time? Do they got the right broad jump? Are they strength wise? Are they competing where we would like to see them competing to be able to compete at this level in order to move up to the next level? So it's a lot of those things that go into the play, and of course you don't know what you don't know until some of the players get here. Right. What type of shape they're in, and how serious are they taking it? I mean, you'll know that within. When they walk through the door, the eye test, right? But
that's a really different 300 than I was expecting. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of science go behind that, and what we looking for. We looking for a certain measurement. We looking for a certain type of player, who's going to fit the Green Bay way.
So from a rules perspective, what is, from the IFL rules side of things, what are those dates that you have to worry about from restricted free agency? There's a thing called tampering in our league, so prior to that date, you can't reach out to anybody that's on another roster. But then what is the actual date of restricted free agency?
So yeah, we were able to speak to players per IFL rules was September 15th. I think this year, Commissioner gave us a go-ahead earlier.
Yeah, we had a little bit earlier.
Yeah, but it's September 15th, and then as of October 1st, we were able to sign those players. So you're starting to see a lot of teams that's signing restricted free agents who they've been in contact, and that player wants to come over or whatnot. And, of course, they got to go through the IFL rules behind how to sign that player or whatnot. We did just have a couple of rule changes or amendment to some rules that was put in place that allow you to sign more than one player or whatnot. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, we have a certain period that we are allowed to communicate with other players on other teams if they're not already signed back.
And then what is the rule on how many guys you can bring to camp? So we'll start camp right around that March 1 date. What is the rule for camp?
Yep, you could bring up to 40 guys. Okay. Up to 40 comes to camp, and then you cut that roster down to 25, a 25-man roster once 48 hours before the first game.
Okay. And when you're looking at all these players, and we've talked about this on the show before, and I know you've touched on it and on things that you've done, the depth chart that you have. Are there certain positions that you have a deeper depth chart on than others because there's good? I know your DBs are like an endless array of depth. You have like 60 of those guys lined up at a time. But no, I mean, seriously, are there more positions that you go through just because of the wear and tear on the player?
Yeah, so we try to bring in, at least we try to go too deep at every position for camp, right? We want to give our guys an opportunity to get the amount of reps that they need in order to showcase their talent during camp. The more guys you bring in, the less reps it is for all the guys. I think that we've been great at that, but we've also been heavier in certain positions. Offensive linemen, you can never get enough offensive linemen. I think everyone at all levels of football looking for offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So, we try to go a couple of more guys at those positions just because if an injury happened, trying to find someone who's in shape to come in and compete and, where you left off at, that's kind of tough. But O-line, D-line, I think that's the position that we would go heavier at, besides the DBs.
Yeah. So, Corey likes DBs, if you haven't picked up on that yet. So what about guys that are playing in like the CIF or the NAL? Can you recruit any of those players?
Absolutely, yes.
These are trick questions.
No trick. No, we have some of those guys. We will recruit heavily, and some, because they have some experience or whatnot. So it's not a learning curve for them, except for some of the rules that we have within our game compared to what they played in the other leagues. But we can recruit them with no restrictions.
Okay,
there's no restrictions.
But if they've signed a contract with them? Can't have dual contracts going.
Correct. Right. So we tend to stay away from guys that's already under contract with other teams or other leagues. Now, if they reach out to us, that's a different story. And if they're interested in coming to play for Green Bay, we take all that stuff in consideration. But as far as us actively pursuing other players, we've not done that since I've been the head coach. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that we won't take a great player.
So let's talk a little bit about this AFL thing that's going on. There's a lot of hype around it. I kind of mentioned it at the top of the show around, I don't know how it can actually survive with the caliber of teams that they're looking for, or that they've signed. Now, historically, if a player was playing in the NFL or playing in the CFL, they're handled a little bit differently on our rosters. Like if they're, let's say you've signed them in October here, or let's say you signed them right after the season, and they get a chance to go into training camp for the Packers in August. How do you handle something like that on our roster?
So we have something called exempt. So if a player signs with us and they move up to the USFL, XFL, CFL, or NFL, which of those are the four leagues or 3.5 or whatever you want to call it.
They might be a third. We're not really sure what's going on with the. Yeah.
So we have something that we exempt. It's an exempt list. So even though you signed a contract with us in the IFL, you are able to go and pursue those options to move up to a higher league. So that we just hold your rights in the IFL. That way, no other IFL team can sign you, but you are able to pursue those options as far as NFL, CFL, XFL, USFL.
So if they go to that camp and for whatever reason they don't get signed to come onto the team, they can always come back in the spring, play for us, get more film, and then hopefully do the same thing again at the end of the season.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So we promote that. We don't want you. We want everyone to move up. That's the name of the game, right?
Absolutely.
It's the opportunity to move up and pursue your dreams that you had set for.
So I will say this, and guys that are any players or if you know players, please get this word out to them. If you don't know the history of the AFL went bankrupt twice. And I personally feel that the people that got hit the most are the players. Mm-hmm. The players suffered the most. When they went bankrupt, the players did not get their pay. They did not get their full contract pay. They basically were left out in the cold. they're asking that these players sign a 2-year contract at this point, and that means if they are under contract, we can't sign them. And the IFL has taken a strong stance on this. The last time that it went bankrupt, we would not sign any players because they were under contract, and that was in court. So we chose to say we're not doing it. Well, I'm letting you know we're not going to do it again. So those players that, typically might sign with the IFL and think that the grass is greener on the other side and they're going to go play in the AFL, that's going to be a problem for you guys when that league folds and you're back in court again, because you're not going to be able to come and play for the IFL.
Right. I would just tell these young fellas to do their research.
Yeah.
Do your research, and make a sound decision for yourself. And, it's, if you need help, hopefully you have some good advisors on your side that's steering you in the right direction. And, the money is not always, it looks good.
It sounds good.
It looks good and sounds good, but, hopefully it's not monopoly money.
Right. Right. You want to be able to play at the end of the day, too.
Right.
So from a signing perspective and a rules perspective, when you said 48 hours before that first game, typically, when are you really done signing players?
Well, that's a never-ending process.
Okay, that was the right answer. So prior to camp, though, do you try, during camp, you've even brought in guys that you're like, yeah, we need one more in this position, or...
Yeah. No, we try to, this past season, we signed guys. We had a couple of our better receivers signed 2 days before camp, right before we was reporting to leave for camp. But, we try to get, we have a certain number, so we want to have anywhere between 32 and 35 players ready for camp. Sometimes we understand guys that sign, they tend to drop off. Now we're scrambling at the last minute to try to fill the void of where we want to be at with the numbers. But once we get to camp, we committed to our guys. We're not trying to bring in, unless we have injuries or whatnot, or we're like, man, this guy's not going to make it. We typically don't bring in more guys, during that process unless we get some injuries or whatnot. So, but we try to be committed to the guys that's committed to us, and we pour into those young men to try to win.
Okay. So prepping for game day and leading up to like that first game. Obviously, you've been practicing with these guys, and like which combination works well together, but you still might have some unanswered questions going into that first game, or you got both guys on the roster, but one is going to perform, or you think one's going to perform better, and the other one might surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you're between two players? And we had that last season with quarterbacks, right? So we had Jerome and we had Max. You ended up going with Jerome at the beginning of the season. Jerome got injured, then you ended up playing Max. But during camp, they were both pretty much head-to-head, right? What was it that made you choose Jerome over Max, or was there a defining moment where you have this aha moment as a coach, whether it's quarterback or whatever? What is it that you're looking for? The stress of the game and how they handled it? Where is that determining factor?
Yeah, even with these young, the two that you spoke of, that was a tough decision. Both of them are capable of being starting quarterbacks in the IFL, if not at a higher league. And we really was picking fly pepper out of poop, to try to determine who was about to be the starter. Right? We had to really go.
When we're done
fly pepper.
Oh, no, I get it. We're good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, proceed.
So that was a tough competition. Both of them guys were great. Hence the reason, they both had some success in their rookie year. Some other positions, it's, what is this guy gonna do to help us get over the top? Can they withstand whatever it is, the adversity that we may go through, from a mental standpoint or even a physical standpoint? Who's gonna give us that best opportunity? And sometimes, it's we guess right, because some of them are neck and neck, and we got to make that decision on who's gonna play or who we're gonna keep on the roster. And sometimes, it's like, whew, man, we sure enough dropped the ball on that one, right? And that's just being human, and sometimes we make mistakes. So,
yeah.
But no, it's we have a tough. We got to really document each practice, and who's doing what in each practice, because each practice is a competition, and they're fighting for a job.
So from a league perspective, you're able to trade, correct?
Correct.
And how do trades come about?
A couple of different ways. So Terrence Smith, our running back from this past season, San Diego was stacked at running back. They was loaded at that position, their backfield, and they reached out. We had a need for running back, and they also had a need for another player that was interested in going west. And so it was a trade that happened, and I think both players got what they wanted, both organizations got what they needed, and I think it was a happy ending for both at the end of the day. But yeah, so it's just communicating with the coaches, having a good relationship with the other teams, business partners, in the IFL, and seeing if they're willing to trade, and if you have something for them. Sometimes you're trading for a future consideration. Sometimes you're trading for a player.
So how does a future consideration work? You put it in as a trade that you're letting your guy go for a future consideration. Is that open-ended for you? Like, yeah, I kind of want that guy now, or I want that position. Do you have to name the position for future consideration?
You could be as specific as possible, and when you send that in to the IFL, the commissioner holds both teams to that, or you could be as vague as possible as you are, and just say future considerations. And that could be anything that both of you all agree on at a later date.
Okay, so we get a lot of comments, and have gotten a lot of comments, both on our website during games, as well as the show. If you're not going to cheat, you're not going to win. And I'm a firm believer of, I really would like, and we've seen some great teams that don't cheat get to the championship, get to the playoffs, right? The cheating that they're talking about is paying the players more. And, the IFL has come up with different rules, and we have a new rules this year around how these guys can make more money. But I know we fight with you quite a bit around the cheating part, and not that you're cheating, but that we're not going to do it, that we're just not going to do it, right?
Right.
And obviously that's frustrating for you, because you talk to other coaches who get fund money or something that they're able to offer these guys. So if you don't have that in your back pocket, what are you selling then when these guys are questioning, what will Green Bay do for me?
Right, it's the opportunity. The location, of course. Prior to this year, we were the only team in IFL with an NFL team in our backyard. Literally across the street, right? When you leave the office, we're looking at Don Hudson practice facility and Lambeau Field, and we share a corner with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that opportunity. But we also don't lie to the guys. We straight up and tell them the truth. This is an opportunity. We can't guarantee a workout with the Packers. But if you do your part and your agent do his part, or his or her part, those opportunities can be there,
Mm-hmm.
But you got to do your part first. So we just be straight up with the guys, keep it real with them. And we're not selling them some fantasy world or, something that we can't do for them. We're just being straight up. And at that point, it's on them if they want to come to Green Bay or not.
We've heard that from a lot of guys where they're promised money, they're promised, all these things, and then they get there, they're going to be a starter, and they're on the bench.
Right.
And then they don't get paid because they didn't start, So that happens quite a bit to these players. And so I like the idea of, we're straight, we're honest, we're not going to sell you a bag of lies.
Right.
It's truly being honest about it.
Right. Yeah, I sleep good at night knowing that I told these guys the truth. I'm not trying to recover on which lie did I tell this guy compared to the other guy. I'm who you gonna get, know. And if you can't respect that, then it wasn't meant for you to come play for us.
Yeah. So in the last couple of years, and with COVID, it kind of got kind of funky. But you guys as coaches would meet together and like hang out together at a coaches meeting per se. I know you haven't had the chance to do that, but you're pretty tight with more coaches than other coaches. There's some coaches you're really tight with. There's others that you aren't. Would you say you guys have a good working relationship, or are there guys that you just don't like to see across the field from you?
No, I think we all have a I mean, now those two different questions, right?
Well, I'm loading it up. You can answer it however you'd like.
Yeah. So no, as far as across the field, Dixie is one of my great friends in IFL, and when we on the field,
You're not friends anymore?
Yeah, well, we're friends, but I'm trying to beat. I'm trying to win.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm trying to win. He's trying to win, no matter what. As far as off the field, I think we all have a great relationship. I can't speak. Well, I only can speak on myself. I think I'm pretty cool with a lot of the coaches. Probably 90%, 99% of the coaches in this league I get along with. We can have a decent conversation off the field. A couple of years ago, I went to Kevin Guy. He opened his castle up to us,
Yep.
and did some mentoring with me or whatnot. So I think the IFL as a whole, I think it's meaningful to have those coaches meetings, although we haven't had some in a couple of years. But I think as a whole, I believe the IFL, communicates well as far as the coaches. But when you're on the field,
All bets are off.
Yeah. It's all about Green Bay.
All right. Good. And again, I'm trying to deal more with the rules of the game. Are there any rules in the game that frustrate you that you wish could get changed? Or that if you did have that coaches meeting that you would bring up as hey, can we look at this?
I know we struggled. I don't think it's an IFL struggle. I think it's a nation thing when it comes to officials, right? The officials are always getting criticized. We got a handful of officiating crews that are top notch in our game, and we got some that need some extra work or whatnot. I think when we talk about the challenges, to go back to what it was, I want to say it was 2019 or maybe 2018. Whereas though you get the two challenges and you win the third one or whatnot, but you get to challenge a lot of things. And I know we did away with that. I thought we was on to something as a league when we was able to do that. But yeah, that would probably be one of the rules. Wasn't a fan of the deuce. Well, not the deuce, the goalpost. But when we benefited from it.
And it worked great.
It was okay.
That was like one of the first games too, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, but other than that, I would say just really when it comes to being able to challenge certain things, because I mean the officials, they human. They don't see everything. They miss some things, and there's some things that we are able to see with the technology that we have on the sideline that we should be able to challenge that. Now that's on the coaches to decide at that point in the game, are they going to challenge that and lose it or win it or whatever, if it's that critical. So that would be one.
Yeah, I think that the challenges, what ended up happening was everybody was challenging everything, and the games were taking 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 45 minutes. So we did some of that to kind of condense the game down so that we could get them done within 3 hours. The other thing is that sometimes when they're challenged, if you don't have enough footage to actually be able to review, that's been the problem, right?
Yeah,
we don't have enough camera angles. You might have seen it because you had a right view from the sideline, but then we're like, okay, from this angle you can't really see what you were seeing. And so there's some of that too. I think as time goes on, that's where we really need to, in order to bring that back, I think we need to have better camera angles or additional angles, if you will.
CBS. No.
Well, yeah, you never know. Could happen. So, all right. What's your take on this whole AFL thing? Have you been? You just
I get bits and pieces. We have some scouting companies that's been helping out a lot. One person in particular, I will leave name unsaid, but he's been feeding me a lot of information and keeping me up to par with who his contacts, what they've been telling him. But until they play a game,
right.
Yeah,
I'm just afraid that they're going to cause enough hype to mess with our players in our season. They have some of the logos that they have out there. I know they don't own the rights to, so they really shouldn't be putting that out there. And we'll see what ends up coming of it. But
yeah, and that just goes back to the advisor, right? You buy into whatever someone's selling, but you're not doing your own research.
Right.
And a lot of these young men I believe they have college degrees, and don't lose that research that you once used to do in college, right?
Right.
So do your own research.
right. One of the other things that we've been asked over the years is why don't we do tryouts anymore?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the resources. We plan on doing one this year. Actually, I got a meeting right after this with a facility to talk about a tryout this year. But the resources that go into it, and then the outcome that we get from it it hasn't been where we wanted it to be. We have signed a couple of guys from our previous camps, or tryouts, but yeah, it's just more so the resources and facilities.
Okay.
Given that where we are, and we can't be outside.
Yeah, nobody's running in a snowbank in January kind of thing. No, that makes sense. The last thing that I have for you, and I don't know if Ryan's got anything else, is I look at our players, I look at the NFL players, and last year you guys had a slogan of 20%, which had a behind-the-scenes meeting from when Larry talked to a recruiter from the NFL that our guys have to be 20% better than anything that they have recruited on to be able to change their minds about somebody that they're bringing in because they've spent so much time recruiting their people. So it's hard for our guys to get across the street, as we call it here in Green Bay, because they have to be that much better. But I think that some of it's a mental thing. There's some of our guys that I look at and I go, there's no way they'd survive across the street.
Mm-hmm.
How would you as a coach help them to get mentally prepared for another level of ball? Where their mind is in the game, not all the fodder that comes with being an athlete,
Yeah, I think we did a great job. We partnered with Aurora Sports Medicine and everything that they provide for us with our dietitian, our strength and conditioning coach, as well as our athletic trainer, and now our sports psychology young person that they hired on to help with that. And that's the psychology part, right? That's deep. And to be able to offer that at this level is huge for our players. But it's the mental preparation. How are you preparing yourself, and how are you approaching practice each day? And I believe a lot of our guys, like you said, it's the mental part of the game. Are they prepared? Are they ready? And we harp and moan on that, or not. I wouldn't necessarily say harp and moan, but that's what we're preaching every day. Mm-hmm. Is what's your mental capacity? What's your approach to the game? What's your approach to today? Are you gonna win today? Are you showing up to practice as a professional and ready to work, or are you showing up and trying to look for a way out? That's a whole nother. If you're looking for a way out, you'll find your way out. But
that's an easy one, right? Yeah, you can find your way out the door.
Yeah. So and it's just helping them grow, right? Some of them wasn't taught a lot of these things in college, depending on what division they come from or whatnot. Some of them were taught this. Some of them, we have a young man at receiver. I look at him and his preparation every day. It was remarkable. Never once did he want to take a day off. He came to work, and if he complained, I never knew. Those are the type of guys that can make it at the next level. Just his approach to the game, mentally, physically, and everything else that came with it. Never partied. If he did party, they called him, he was like an old man in the back.
Sitting in the corner.
Yeah. So, and I know we had more guys than just him, but I'm just, targeting him specifically. Probably because he just texted not too long ago.
So he's fresh on your brain. All right. Any other rules you want to talk about from a coach's perspective as far as attaining players or kind of those dates? We pretty much covered everything, I think.
Yeah. The IFL do a great job of giving us the opportunity to, first right, to try to re-sign your players. And you should be doing that within, like I said, we had a process of who we wanted to bring back and who we wanted to sign. And those guys started receiving contracts right away. Some haven't signed yet, so get your contracts in. But others have signed, and but the process goes on, right? You got to bring in the next best talent, and you always bringing in guys who you believe can compete and push or take over, from guys who you had the year before. Other than that, as far as rules, I like the IFL rules. Our game is based on outdoor football, just indoors. 8-on-8 instead of 11-on-11, and we got a couple of little, tricks and kinks to our rules as far as defensive alignments and stuff like that with the belt and box. I think we did some of this stuff a couple of years ago. Maybe we could revisit that. But the IFL rules is football.
Yeah, it's bringing it indoors that we make that alignment there. Like you're talking about the belt and just the different things that they have to be in a specific position and lined up in a specific position before the motion starts, for safety, first of all, but second, because it's such a smaller field that we do that to have the play of the game work.
Right.
But, awesome.
Yeah.
I think I got everything I needed. How about you, Ryan?
Got nothing.
What's going on over there?
Just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
We didn't need to set up this microphone, sir.
We didn't want you to be without a voice.
No, that's great. No, it's questions we've been asked episode after episode, so I appreciate you taking time to explain it. So,
were there any questions from the fans about rules or that they didn't know?
They just wanted to understand the timing of acquiring players, how trades work, the restricted free agents. When you start your process, do you wait until now, or like you said, you do it right after that last game? You start right away.
Right, yeah. No, you have to process. So we do have 24 guys signed. We haven't announced those guys yet, but we will in due time. And
we're kind of waiting for the schedule, aren't we? Or are we going to start announcing players now?
Well, a lot of things happen once that schedule come out.
Okay.
And I think a lot of players start making decisions as well. I think they schedule watch as well.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I think the front office and I will get together and talk about, when we want to push that. And I like that when the schedule come out. That makes sense.
Yeah.
that's not me, just so everybody
Schedule?
knows what I do. Like, I am not social media. I am a sales guy through and through. So, like, those conversations happen, and we tend to, I think this year, do a really good job of involving Corey, so we know what order and who and when. Yeah, that stuff's all coming along with season ticket push and schedule release. Looking for more dates. I think I can share that the league is looking for more to fill some gaps. So that's why we haven't seen a schedule release yet. So
Yeah, we had hoped for October 1, but so we're trying to lay out the schedule that we stay consistent with that first weekend in August. So if you do that and you backtrack, you want to have at least 2 buys in there. So you backpack. you back off 1 week because that you want as your rest week after the playoffs. And then you basically count back 2 playoff games plus a 16-game schedule, so that's 18 weeks. So you got to play 18 in a how many week period, so we're going to try and start in March. So if we can't get dates for that timeline, it pushes it later into August. And so Todd did reach out to the owners and say, hey, I'm really weak in these particular weekends. In order to have the schedule stay, he has to have 4 dates in every weekend. That means 8, there's 8 teams playing at least, if not more, each weekend. Because we can't have you play one weekend and then you're off the next weekend. So we have 16 teams that we're trying to play. So theoretically, that should be 8. You need 8 dates each weekend. And in order to be able to mix and match. Now, a lot of times, as we know with the schedule, everybody has this weekend available, but then nobody has the next weekend available.
Right.
And if no one has the weekend available, the only thing you can do is you give everybody a bye.
Right.
And that's where you get some teams that have 1 bye, and then you have other teams that have 4 byes and 3 byes. You got teams that travel a lot at the beginning, or teams that travel a lot at the end. There really isn't consistency. Until we all have the same dates available, there won't be that consistency that everybody's hoping for. So
are we looking to go to a 16 game?
we are 16 game this season, yeah. So last year we had a 15, it was kind of a hybrid schedule. We gave up one of our home games to another team, and just had the 8 away and 7 home, right? Yeah.
Yep.
This year we'll have 8 home, 8 away.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 home.
10 home?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, then somebody else has to give up 2 of their home.
Not for playoff games.
Thank
See
you.
what did
Oh,
there.
I gotcha.
Thank you.
I gotcha. I gotcha. All
I was
right.
tracking.
There we go.
I only think in home games, so Corey half likes me because that's the way I think. So.
Not half.
So you heard it. Corey just promised 2 home playoff games, which means he's top seed plus winning that and going on to the championship.
There we go.
So it was already put out here.
Speaking into existence.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's it from me.
No.
No.
Well, how are we going to
No
do
questions? We could go
This
like
is
this. I've been
good.
thinking about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we crossed, you and I, or you just
We
go.
crossed?
Oh, like
yeah,
this?
I think,
Oh.
yeah.
That's
this?
the
Are
X.
you crossing or are we crossing?
That's the X. I don't know.
You
I'm
just
just-
go this way, and then we'll do this.
Yeah.
See, this is a whole thing. This is a whole thing. All right.
We didn't practice. We should
Nope.
have practiced off
We
the
need
air.
to
No.
practice. It's going
Should
to
we
have
give
to
it a
look
whirl?
good. Let's give it a whirl.
All right, should we hit him with it?
Let's hit him with it.
Go
Blizz.
Don't forget to like, follow,
Subscribe
share.
and ring that notification bell to get all of our content in your inbox.